What is up, and welcome back to the CKM Red Rugby League channel. It is another glorious Tuesday. The grand final is quickly upon us, and we are into the semis. 4 teams in, only 2 coming out the other side. Very much looking forward to this one. Not a whole host of changes to go through, but still plenty of talking points to get through. As ever, joining me to go through the teams is Luke Jobson. How are you going, mate?
Mate, just quietly, I'd be a lot better if another team had got the rub of the green. But you know what? That's all I'm going to say about that. We are 1 week away from the grand final. It is a cracking game, or cracking couple of games coming up. Melbourne, who I apparently have to support this weekend, trying to get the rub over Penrith once again. Of course, Manly looking to cap their stellar season with a grand final appearance after being 0-4 to start the year, coming up against the South Sydney side with no Latrell, but no Latrell, no worries, because you got Blake Taft there, mate. It's going to be a cracking week of football. I'm pumped. I'm excited. I've got my nearly finished enchilada on the side. I'm quite happy about that. It's a great dinner. How are you, mate?
Mate, I am very good. I'm very much looking forward to getting into these team lists, giving our analysis on these ones, and I think we'll jump straight into it, and we will go for the Rabbitohs first. It is pretty much an unchanged side for South Sydney. So going through the numbers, it is Taff at 1, Johnston off the back of a second consecutive Ken Irvine medal. Congratulations to him. On one wing with Paulo on the other, and then it is Gagai and Graham in the centres. Going through to the halves, it is Walker and Reynolds. In the props, it's Nichols and Totola with Cook at 9, and then Kaloma, Tungi and Seward in the second row, with Cam Murray in that ever-reliable 13 role. Going down to the bench, it is Marshall, Host, Burgess and Arrow. And then into the reserves, it is Milne, Margot, Burns and Cartwright. Going to the Seagulls, and they are as good as unchanged, 1 through 17, and down to the reserves as well. Tom Trbojevic in the 1 with Saab and Garrick on the wings, Parker and Harper in the centres, with Foran and Cherry Evans in the halves. Aloye holding down that starting prop role with Marty Tapau, and Croker in the 9 with Olaka R2 and Schuster in the second rows with Jake Trbojevic again in that holding 13 role, with Walker, Lawton, Kepi and Paseka making up the bench. Then down to the reserves, it is Sipley, Sully, Sirinen and Funa. First things first, the Seagulls have truly got the wind in their sails here. And it is the media influence once more that will do that. Because the big headline that is buzzing around Seagulls camps at the minute, and the title that they have been dubbed, is Flat Track Bullies with an incapability of beating a top 4 side. That is arguably the best thing that could have been said about them, because if there's one thing NRL sides love to do, it is come out and absolutely stick it to the pundits. And my God, with a win against the Rabbitohs, will they absolutely stick it to them. Tom Trbojevic last week equaling a club record of 27 tries in a season. Massive congratulations to him. He has a chance of beating that record. Saab has a chance of equaling that record. If not beating it, he currently sits on 26 tries. That club record currently sitting at 27. The whole tagline of Flat Track Bullies, incapable of beating a top 4 side, and that they've not really done much to earn their spot, and the fact that it's unjustified that they are 80 minutes from a grand final. Here they are. Again, the Rabbitohs, exactly the same thing. No Latrell Mitchell means no grand final. Here they are 80 minutes away from a grand final with Blake Taff in the 1. It just goes to show sometimes things that are said don't always correlate with what they should do. And the Seagulls, we've talked about it ourselves off air, probably the overachievers of the season. Realistically, they are there, but they're there on merit. They've earned every single win. They've not had any real contentious calls that have got them here. You know, what's your thoughts on this one?
It's pretty funny. For me, it's really funny that a squad who was 0-4 this year, who we had written off after round 4, to be fair, is now 80 minutes away from a grand final. It's pretty funny that the media are calling them flat track bullies, but it's also the same media as a whole that asked for Des Hasler to be sacked after 3 rounds this year. It's the same media that said when Tommy Turbo was out through Origin and was out with a bit of a niggle straight after that, it was the same media that said, "Oh, well, you can forget about it now. Manly are no chance. You know, they're going to lose their next 3. They're going to drop out of the 8. You can forget about this season." It's the same media that said Michael Maguire was going to be sacked today and wasn't. So I'm going to throw that one out there. And like you said, Matt, it's the same media that said no Latrell, South Sydney no chance, and they pumped the Roosters last week 42-6. That was as much of a full strength Roosters side I think that you would have seen this year. So yeah, you take the media with a grain of salt. You look at the one time that these two played this year. It was without Tom Trbojevic. It was a 26-12 win at Brookvale in favour of the Bunnies. But I mean, it's hard not to read into that. But again, no Tom Trbojevic. What I'm more looking to is this trend of the last 5. The last 5 times, all back to 2019, inclusive of finals, South Sydney have won all 5. South Sydney have won 4, and the only one they didn't win was a golden point victory to Manly at Brookvale. That's got me leaning towards South Sydney. Now, with that being said, can the kicking game of Cody Walker, Latrell Mitchell, Cookie out of Damien half? Holy smokes, I'm having a shocker. Out of dummy half, and Blake Taaffe to an extent, can their kicking game take out the return of Tom Trbojevic? It was the Roosters' issue last week. Their first kick went straight to Tommy, charged back for 25 metres, and Manly started 35 out from their own line. They have to employ the same tactic Melbourne did 2 weeks ago, and kick to the corners. Make Jason Saab, make Ruben Garrett come back. Both of them are strong runners, but not as strong as Tommy Trbojevic. In terms of Manly and their attack, I mean, it's the same media that said Blake Taaffe was going to get bombed to hell and back, and that probably still has to be the tactic. But you look at Saab, who plays right wing, would be the left side for the Bunnies, which would be Alex Johnson. I think you have to target that. You have to target that matchup in the air. On the ground, yes, Saab is quick. He's got the speed over AJ, but AJ has worked on his defensive deficiencies. In the air, Jason Saab over Alex Johnson every day of the week. That has to be the play. Every kick from 20 out and closer has to be a crossfield kick to Saab. AJ will get some help from Campbell Graham, but it's not going to be enough. So if you look at Sportsbet at the moment, South Sydney, the 174 favourites over Manly. I'm going to go and say Manly going to the grand final. Manly 1-12. I just think the Tom Trbojevic matchup is too good. He's going to just barrel through. He'll contest the high bombs that go the way of Blake Taaffe. He'll be too strong through the middle in the back half of this game. Yes, Cody Walker, Adam Reynolds are going to lead this side like nothing else. But realistically, I think Manly have this 1-12. Jason Saab at $1.72 on the anytime try scorer. I'll take some of that. I do think Cody Walker goes over. If South Sydney do win, Cody scores. He's at 288. The potential, I won't say a roughie per se, but I think it would be more due course. It'd be reflective of the season he's had. If he goes over in a prelim final against a side that had caused him grief when he played in Canberra, Lockie Croker at $8, burrowing over from dummy half. Not an official tip, but I think that's probably a bit over. But realistically, I'm going Manly 1-12, Cody Walker, Jason Saab anytime.
Yeah, I'm going to join you on Manly 1-12, but I think this week it's going to be Trbojevic is going to have a harder time. Not because the Rabbitohs are a better team defensively. We've seen that the Rabbitohs have plenty of defensive frailties. While they can score points, they can also leak points, which is going to be a big problem, especially when Kieran Foran and Daly Cherry-Evans both found their running game last week. And the reason that they found their running game is exactly the thing that we called out last week. And that is that the Roosters were too fixated on Tom Trbojevic. And while Tom Trbojevic played a huge role in that game, they were constantly looking for that sweeping block play, moving from left to right and right to left, which basically exposed people over chasing and offering that outside hip. The second you get on a player's outside hip, they are off balance and you are going to go through. That is what happened for both Foran and Cherry-Evans try. People over sliding, over chasing, and it offered the opportunity to come back on the inside. You saw it time and time again. There was a lot more players that broke lines this week because people were too focused on where Turbo Tom was going to be. And that created plenty of problems and plenty of issues. I think that the kicking game of Adam Reynolds is going to be instrumental if the Rabbitohs are going to potentially hold up in this one. Reynolds is a fantastic kicker. Cowboys is back. How are you going, mate? Nice to see you back. Reynolds is going to be instrumental in this one. He is a damn sight better kicker than what the Roosters had to offer last week in the form of Hutchison and Walker and Lamb, and he's going to have to find grass. Force Trbojevic to have to backpedal. There is no point putting it up in the air. If you are going to put it up in the air, you hang it shallow into the line and create chaos in the middle, but you run the risk of offering the Seagulls coming at you from as good as halfway. You're going to need to pump it to the corners, split the fullback, split the winger, look for a couple of 40-20s or 20-40s. Look to create opportunities off the boot and take Trbojevic out the game. Because if you're going to invite him into the game on tackle one, week in, play after play, set after set, it's only a law of averages. Trbojevic has shown that he will break the line out of absolutely nowhere. But we've harped on Turbo there for a little bit. Let's look at some of the other players. Aloye and Tapau held up really well in the middles. Walker came in, created some problems in that utility 14 role. Lawton's been a revelation at second row this year ever since his release and coming over to the Seagulls. It looked like that he was going to be there in a 9 role. Instead, he's been used more as a utility forward, and it's created opportunities for him and created problems for other teams because he's shown that work ethic. I just think that the Rabbitohs, if they're going to hold up in this one, they need to find a way to keep Turbo out of the game. They need to make sure that they are not jamming in because Saab is too fast. Saab has shown that he will tread that tightrope every single time. He's absolutely flying on confidence. And what that means is that he will back himself on the outside stripe against absolutely anyone, including the league's top scorer. So it's gonna be a tough ask. If I'm going to say anyone goes over for the Seagulls, I'd potentially join you on Saab just because I think that he's probably got that record in his eye line as well. So I'm going to go Saab. I'm going to go Seagulls 1-12. I'm going to throw Trbojevic on there as well. I just think it almost feels too obvious, but those are my 3 tips for this one. I'm going to say probably a tight game as well. I don't think anyone's going to blow anyone out here, so I'll take the under on this one.
All right. Manly 1-12, Saab and Walker. 3 legs, same game multi with Sportsbet. Gamble responsibly. I'm assuming they're going to offer the 3-leg, lose 1, get your money back in a form of bonus bet. Saab Walker, Manly 1-12 is 15.25. Saab Trbojevic, Manly 1-12. The under 44.5 is $20. The only thing I want to throw in there in terms of that under 44.5, looking at the last 10 games for the Bunnies, the under's only been hit, or the under's been hit 4 times, but 2 of those were 42 points. For Manly, last 10 games, the under 44.5 has been hit twice. So
semi-finals do weird things to teams.
Mate, we saw. Do we have to talk about last week now? Can we not talk about last week?
Oh, go on. We'll indulge you. PG-13. PG-13.
No. You know what? Take a seat. I'll be nice. You've carried everyone on your back this year with the team lists. Let me handle the Storm Panthers. That could be how I vent.
Okay, go on then.
Second game of the weekend: Melbourne Storm and the Penrith Panthers from Suncorp. I mean, at the start of the year, this was going to be a likely grand final. We get it 1 week early. The Storm are basically unchanged. Pappenhausen is in the one. The only change this week comes in the form of Josh Addo-Carr. He is back on the wing, Lumi to the reserves. He joins George Jennings, Remus Smith, Justin Olam, who was rorted from a Centre of the Year nomination, but we won't start on that. Cameron Munster, Jerome Hughes are your halves. Jesse Bromwich, Brandon Smith, and Christian Welch, the 8, 9, and 10. Kafusi, Kenny Bromwich, Dale Finucane, the second row. Harry Grant, Tui Kamikamitha, Nelson Asafa Solomona, and Nico Hines are the bench, with Penne, Eisenhuth, Lewis, and the aforementioned Lumi on the reserves. For the Panthers, that hurts. Dylan Edwards in the one. Stevie Crichton and Brent Naden are the wingers. Movorovsky and Matt Burton are the centres. Jerome Luai, 10 in the bin. And Nathan Cleary are your halves. Moses Leota, James Fisher-Harris are your props, with Appy Coruscant in the 9. Big Billy Kickout named in the 11. You have to think he's going to start on the bench, though. He's named alongside Kurt Capewell with Isaiah Yeo in the 13. Tyrone May is in the 14 with no Mitch Kenny this week. Hopefully his ankle goes well. Glad to see the trainer got punished. Tyrone May in the 14. Scott Sorensen, Tavita Pangai Jr. and Liam Martin on the bench. Isaac Targo, Spencer Leniu, Jermaine Hopgood, and Brian To'o named in the 21. Touch and go as to whether he comes back this week. Could have been touch and go as to whether he played again this year. But, you know what? 60 seconds. 60 seconds. I'm glad that the trainer isn't there for the rest of the year, because he has just openly admitted and said, yep, went to the touch. He said game had to be called off. As much as I want to lash out at the refs, that was the right call. A trainer has told them that a player is seriously injured and the game needs to be stopped. I can't blame them for that. The fact that the NRL has come out and blamed the touchy to an extent there, not a fan of that. The fact that the NRL blamed the touch judge for Ashley Klein and the bunkers screw-up regarding Mitchell Moses being pulled back not once but twice but 3 times, and the fact that Brent Naden knocked on, all in the span of 20 seconds. Like, why isn't Ashley Klein getting blamed? Why isn't the bunker getting blamed? Why are you leaving it on the touchy? Yeah. Look, from an unbiased perspective, I think this is going to be a great game, potentially one of the best games of the year. From a very biased perspective, I hope the Storm screw them up. I hope the Storm get in there, rip their bloody hearts out, and knock them out for a 30-plus win. And I hate the Storm. This is the same Storm that took Parramatta's premiership away in 2009 because they were $1 million over the salary cap. Screw the Storm. Just for this week, the Panthers can go jump on a cactus. Please take it away with your analysis.
Okay.
I kept it PG for you.
Okay, much appreciated. I'm sure that everyone out there will be much appreciative of that one. Yeah, as you mentioned there, but I think Gus Gould said it best, and that's that when you give this much power to the game and you give the trainers the power, then you are open to it. Every team does it. Unfortunately, at this point, it was a make or break decision that's gone against them. There's no guarantees that the Eels would have scored, but there was certainly an opportunity, and the opportunity went begging because a trainer took the opportunity to intervene, and that's likely what he's been coached to do. But onto this game, straight off the bat, the big two that you want to talk about. Kick out apparently had a knee cut that kept him out of a pool session and a high ankle sprain. So is probably likely to go to the bench with Pangai Jr. coming into the starting role. Maybe Liam Martin. You got Toto down there. Reports were that he was in a moon boot yesterday through training. So even if he does play, the likelihood is that he's not running at 100% and that he's going to be pushing some pain barriers. And it does introduce a huge risk because, I mean, if he plays, then essentially you've lost your 14 utility if he does come from the field, because you'd think that Tyrone Mayer go into the centres where he has played a little bit this season, and Burton will be forced out to the wing, which is a big, big problem for the Panthers there. So it's just a case of how much of a risk are they willing to take against this Storm side. Got a comment here from Adam. Go Rabbitohs. It's going to be Rabbitohs versus Storm Grand Final. Simple as that. No upsets this week. Okay, mate. We're happy to see that you're backing your team there with full confidence. Yeah, I mean, the Storm, again, come with plenty of utility. Harry Grant, Nico Hines on the bench. The problem that you've got with Hines is that he's too good to leave out the squad, but also Pappenhausen's too good to force him out of the squad, is the issue. Yeah, comment here from Mitch. Yeah, can't see the Panthers bothering the Storm at all.
Get around it, Mitchy. Go on, son.
The Storm have just been absolutely unassailable week in, week out, with the exception of a few stutters and a few Parramatta-shaped speed bumps through the course of the season. It's first versus second. It's a semi-final. It could really go either way. I mean, it doesn't look great on the head-to-head for the Panthers because out of 38 games, the Storm have won 28 of them. That right there, history tends to repeat itself. Last time that these two sides played, there was a game in March, 12-10 in favour of the Panthers. But the more recent one, the 1st of August, 37-10 in favour of the Storm. That is grim reading for any Panthers fans out there. Look, you can go on form as much as you want during finals, but sometimes, yeah, Mitch reaffirming the fact that he is an Eel supporter there. But when it comes to finals football, form goes out the window. It is whoever has the most in that 80 minutes, because you can be the form team of the competition, but if you have a bad week, it will come back to haunt you, and it is a long off season when you're coming off a loss, especially in games that you should be winning. And the Storm will feel, as the team that finished up as one of the greatest NRL teams of all time, if not this season through the regular season, that this is theirs to lose. So anything short of a win is a massive disservice to everything that they've built this year. You got Munster and Hughes causing problems in that 6 and 7 role. Two strong runners. Whereas you look to the Panthers, Cleary is very much the cool head. Luai is the runner. Luai's job will be to get out there and wind somebody up. He is earning a reputation as a wind-up merchant. He's an in-your-face player that's not afraid to put himself about. And it's just a case of how
people from the back.
No comment. But he'll be up there trying to get in the head of Munster more than anybody. Because if there's anybody in that team that's potentially going to undo all the hard work of the season, it's going to be Munster. He has a short fuse. He has a potential for a blow-up. There was a great interview with Brandon Smith earlier in the week where he talks about his sin bin and his ill discipline in the grand final and how he thought that he'd cost his team the grand final. He's not going to slip up. Big part of life is not making the same mistake twice. You're not going to get in his head. Munster's going to be the player that you rattle, if anything. You got Dale Finucane. If he loses, it's his last game in a Storm jersey. He'll want to bow out with a premiership and go out on a high. Jason here, not sure Panthers can bother the Storm after such a hard game last week. Big ask. Yeah, that's another factor as well that I'd not thought about. The fact that the Storm have had a week off, whereas the Panthers really had to dig in and come up with a win. And it's it's taxing. Low-scoring games are the most physically taxing game you will ever play in, because you are running on nervous energy constantly. You know that all it takes is one line break and you're chasing a scoreline, a penalty, a decision, any number of things. A knock on, a forward pass can be the decisive factor. So the Panthers will probably be exhausted from last week's game, and they will be feeling the effects of that, whereas the Storm have had a week off, they've had a chance to recuperate.
I wanted to inject so many comments into there. Got to compose myself a little bit, because we don't want to be unbiased commentators here at CCAM Red Rugby League for all things NRL. Look, the key stat that I got out of last week wasn't the win. It wasn't necessarily, the penalty count, yes. But the key stat in terms of the physicality of the game was that there was 70 more play the balls in the Panthers game last week as opposed to Manly's. And ball was in play for an extra 9 minutes. I think ball was in play for 52 minutes, I believe Paul Kent said on NRL 360 last night. It was either 61 or 63 minutes for the Penrith game. And there was no stop button on the physicality. It was there from tackle 1 until about 79:35. That's what it was. The Storm thought they had lost Brandon Smith for the season with the facial fracture. Obviously, that is not the case. He's back. That's huge. It just gives them another versatile option. They'll do what they have done for the last couple of months now. He'll play the first 25 minutes. Harry Grant comes on. He injects that spark with Pappenhausen. It takes the pressure off of some of the guys with that go forward, because Brandon Smith will just be a roving lock. He'll come off after 50 minutes. Nico Hines comes on, and Hines injects himself wherever he wants to, whenever he wants to. So it's such a big inclusion to have Brandon Smith there. Of course, we're expecting Adokar to get up. Go the Bunnies, Chaz, mate. You can find that one on Recast to get our reaction on that. Yeah, absolutely, Mitch. Best defensive game, best game of the year. There's not been a better game of the year for me. It just proves you don't need a 35-34 scoreline to have a game of the year. Big time inclusion. Kick out. If he doesn't play, I imagine Martin starts and Pangai just keeps bustling on the bench. He's there for a premiership. He's come to give him that big 40-minute impact. He did that last week against Parramatta, 38 minutes, 180-odd meters, 30-odd tackles. He was amazing. But if Kickout doesn't play, I would expect probably Hopgood comes in as that second rower option. If not, Leniu would come in. Tips. Hart says Storm 50+. Keep in mind that's the Heart, and the Heart has failed me on more than one occasion this year. No, Storm 1 to 12. Penrith, they get up for this week, but I don't think they get up enough. Last week, it's taken it out of them. There's going to be some sore boys. Yeah, we've already mentioned Kickow and To'o 50-50 to play. Edwards struggled to get up for training on Monday. Was in the pool there today, but there is some real tired boys there. You have to imagine that Munster's going to pepper Edwards like Moses did with those high towering spiral kicks. Would not surprise me if you have someone like a Pappenhausen charging through, collects it, gives it off to a Munster or a Hughes following their own kick. Officially, I'm saying Justin Olam. I think he tells the NRL Dally M committee to stick it where the sun doesn't shine. I think Melbourne set a play up specifically for Olam to get him over. I'd love to see that happen. So officially, Storm 1 to 12, Olam at 270. I mean, I probably should pick someone for the Panthers. I likely don't really want to pick any one of them. Mm-hmm. Really don't want to pick any of them. Cleary. we'll go with Cleary at 450 as an official tip. Big game. He has to step up this week. He had a really good kicking game last week, but in attack, I think he was a bit arrogant, as was Penrith when they tried to keep peppering Parramatta on their own line. Parramatta, credit to them, they stepped up, had their best defensive game of the year. But Cleary can't have the arrogance that he walked into last week with. I think he steps up, he scores here. Olam 1-12, Cleary. The score, Olam, Storm 1-12, and Cleary in a multi, 3-legger, 33.50.
Okay. I'm going to go Storm 13+. I'm going to say Hughes anytime and Adokar anytime. I think the lack of rest for the Panthers is going to be an issue. I think that they hold up for 50, 60 minutes and then the Storm blow it out in the last 10, 15. So I think if they are going to run with the players that are at 60, 75% at the minute, carrying injuries rather than backing some of their reserves and trying to come up with players there, I think that's going to be an issue. You got Toho named in the 21 there, does not fill me with the greatest confidence. I think they'll try and shoehorn him in for the sake of having him in, and at which point then he's got to face up to a grand final as well. Does not sound like a great idea to me. Kick out, again, rumours that he's potentially on his way out at the end of the season due to cap issues at the Panthers. But yeah, I like the thinking of Olam. I think Adokar probably gets up. He's on his last few games for the Storm now. Hughes, his running game has been instrumental this season. I think we'll probably see some of that running game again, and that'll create problems for the Panthers. So that's where I'm going with that one. So Storm 13+, Hughes anytime, Adokar anytime for me.
8.25 on the multi. Storm 13+, 2.25. Adokar, $1.62. Jerome Hughes at 360. Again, these are odds on Sportsbet as of 10 to 8 Tuesday night. Gamble responsibly, all of that. You might find better odds elsewhere. So have a look if you are going to have a punt. But yes, please gamble responsibly. And if you win with using our tips of your beauty, if not, they didn't come from us.
Well, I think that's going to do us there for this week. Thank you once again for joining us. If you've missed any of the individual previews and you would just like to get them in sort of 10, 15-minute bursts, you can do over on our recast page. Go to the link there below or click it in our page description and search for CKM Red Rugby League. We have a great time over there. Some great new content on there as well, as we broke down the Red Star versus Partizan game, play-by-play analysis. Really interesting to do. We have got another game on there this week, Red Star versus Dortmund, coming at you from the Serbian Super League. So if you would like to join us over there, you can do. We would be very happy to see you there. I guess that just gives us time to thank you once again for joining us, and we will see you next week.